There you go. So officially welcome everyone. My name's Kit McMahon. I'll introduce my colleagues in a second, but this is the first in what we're hoping is three seminars from a partnership of people between Chisholm, SEMMA and ourselves. I'm going to hand over to the magnificent head of SEMMA, Honey Walker, just to open proceedings, and then we'll take it from there. Honey, over to you.
Thanks very much, Kit, and welcome everybody. Thank you so much. SEMMA is very proud to work with WISE and Chisholm for the Nice Work If You Can Get It project. We're going to bring you a series of events, forums and information sessions and collateral designed to highlight the opportunities that hiring in diversity can bring manufacturers. Australian manufacturing sector is increasingly recognising the importance of diversity and inclusion for fostering innovation, enhancing productivity and achieving overall business success. The key benefits of diversity in Australian manufacturing can drive enhanced innovation and problem solving, improve financial performance, better talent attraction and retention, increased productivity and performance, and improved market understanding. Plus, it's just a nice place to work. There are challenges and opportunities, but there are also plenty of strategies for implementing diversity. You'll hear about some of those today. And the future outlook for the Australian engineering and manufacturing sectors are well positioned to lead in this cultural diversity. So once again, I welcome everyone. I thank you, Kit, and our friends at Chisholm, and of course the Victorian Government for this opportunity. We're very excited to do this. Also, check out our website and keep up with the information from our EDMs. That's it from me.
Thank you so much, Honey, for that opening and setting this absolutely as a piece of work for the industry selfishly in Southern Melbourne, as we say. In a moment, I'm going to take the time to introduce you also to our two employers, two industry leads in Southern Melbourne, Donna Paxton and Girish Fernandez. But before I do that, and we'll have a conversation with them about their experience, I just wanted to talk to you about what we want to do today. Today is an opportunity for us to introduce you to this project with a very cheeky title called Nice Work If You Can Get It, and give you a bit of a background. The other thing too is we're going to go through and we're going to set the scene for that project, which is ultimately the business case for diversity in manufacturing. I'm really delighted that we've got people here today that are interested in this, want to learn more, not only from Southern Melbourne and Melbourne, but I also know from national organisations as well. So thank you very much for supporting this. And I know that there are many fellow travellers on this journey. Crucially for this is about hearing the employer perspective, and we're going to learn from the actual people that are in the field doing the work, running the businesses to meet the needs of the customers. Then if we've got time, it'd be great to hear from you. If you've got any questions that you want to add, feel free to use the chat. This will go for an hour till 1 o'clock. We're going to keep it short and sharp. Feel free to have that lunch. I know a few of you take a lunch break. I don't know many of you who take a lunch break, but please, hopefully this is a great time for you. And we're also going to look to where to from here and get your feedback on what else that you want to say. A little bit more about me, because I do want to share with you about what this project is. Look, it's all about getting stuff done, really. It's about, let's see actually how we can learn together with a training provider, Chisholm TAFE in our region, with ourselves. So Women's Health in the Southeast, for those that you don't know, Victoria has got a very long tradition, decades-long tradition of actually being very specific about the health of women from the 1970s onwards. And WISE, Women's Health in the Southeast, is one of 12 women's health services. So we do a few different things. We help health services improve their service and what the programs and the clinical support that they provide for all women in our region. We do quite a bit around preventing family violence as well. But we also do a lot of work to try to get equitable workplaces as well for everyone. So this is part of it for us. This is one of the things that we do. We've got expertise in this area, but we're delighted that we're also partnering, and SEMMA is an absolute key partner at the table. This is actually about learning and addressing what we know are some of the barriers to getting those diverse workplaces, because people kind of talk about it, but actually how do we make that happen in a real practical way? We're focusing on this space called the skills pipeline, really what happens beyond the point where they're enrolled in a course or they're doing the apprenticeship. What happens between that bit there and where they get a job, right? It is absolutely collaborative and it's targeted. And as I said, it's selfishly about Southern Melbourne and manufacturing. Let's just lay the scene though, if we can. One of the products of the course of this project is to deliver a series of webinars, as Honey said. And I want to present to you, or seminars to industry, and I wanted to present to you why that's the case. Here's the thing, folks. Since 2007, that's the enrolments of the diversity in manufacturing in two fields of education: manufacturing, engineering, and process and resources, which contain quite a few qualifications over the years. And as you can see, that dial ain't changed much. All right. Now, I have to say, we're lucky enough to hear today from two organisations that are walking the talk. And I know there are a number of organisations that are walking the talk that work with SEMMA, but it's not normal, right? These people are the exceptional, as it were. So we want to talk about, well, what do we do to make that practice normal? So, you know, in Australia, we have a thing that we do. We're a bit famous for it globally. We have jobs for women and then we have jobs for men. And it's been like that for quite a few decades. So we've got a bit more opportunity to think about what can we do to address that and why that might be a good thing. But here's the other thing about our wonderful manufacturing sector that does such marvelous things. And I know that most of the people on the line who are in manufacturing, you're people of data and you're people of facts and you're problem solvers. Sometimes when I talk about this stuff, I have to say, people say, oh, why are you ramming it down our necks? Why are you beating us over the head about it? All I'm just doing here is sharing data that's consistent, right? There is a pay gap, and I can talk about the pay gap under wet cement, and I'm happy to do that for you, Honey, another day if you'd like me to talk about that to your members. But the pay gap is an indicator. It's an indicator of a range of things that come together that result in the fact that, in this case, women take home nearly 20% less than men. And I can tell you about why that's the case. But the data is on the Workplace Gender Equality website if you want to know more. You can go to that website. 91% of all CEOs in manufacturing across Australia are men. 70% of what they call heads of businesses, so these are the division heads or whatever you want to call them, are men. 74% of key management personnel are men. And 90% of the technicians and trade workers, and again, I want to recognise that we've got people here today who've done a lot of work to change this number. But what typically happens is 90% of the workers on the lines, on the manufacturing, on the tools are men, but 68% of the clerical roles are women. And it's the only job classification in manufacturing where women are in the majority. Just the facts. Not making them up. There's bigger godlike creatures than me that are finding this out. But of course, women and men is only one part of the diversity. We've also got people come from migrant backgrounds. We've got people whose language is other than English. We've got people who hold a disability, First Nations people as well. But what we've got a lot of in our country is more and more is tracking by gender. Anyway, that's the facts. But look, just to reiterate, and we're going to send out, aren't we, Honey, after this, a few kind of handouts, leave behinds. So you'll get all this in writing for you. It'll be up on the SEMMA website. That what we know is that when you get different perspectives together, there's greater collaboration. across it, and you get it's just more multiple perspectives. It is a more robust decision-making process, right? It is more reflective of the environment. There is, I don't know how many times I've read this and read the data, but it actually delivers high performance, high productivity. And I think it's because you're actually reflecting, aren't you, the consumers and the people in the community that you work with. But what we know is that there's key challenges, and we've got our friends from the National Manufacturing Skills Alliance on the line with us today, and they've got a great report out, a workforce plan that codifies this nationally. And you can get this data too, as well, from the Victorian perspective. You know, that, and I don't know any employer I'm talking to at the moment in manufacturing that's saying we need the right people to make things. So there is a skill shortage, and there is also this forecast, what they're calling this the retirement cliff. So there's a bunch of wisdom in the sector that's about to leave the building, as it were. We've also got this need to improve the diversity of our leadership. One statistic talks about 57% of engineers are born overseas, yet our actual leadership doesn't reflect that experience. Of course, we acknowledge the present company on this call today different. And there is lots of work that's been done to promote the school and careers, the career in schools and entrance. But what our project's interested to do is to say, well, what are we got to do after we get them in? And we've got people on the line today who are going to be able to talk about that. Look, all the action plans, and I know that Honey and the SEMMA team are going to put together a workforce, a blueprint for manufacturing, and there's going to be a workforce and a skills piece in that. So we're hoping that this project can contribute to that thinking of the membership of SEMMA. But what we know is that companies that invest in diversity will consistently outperform their competitors. And there is this opportunity for Australia to do that and model that very well. So that's what these conversations about. But I'm gonna stop talking, as it were, because I think most of the people on the line here are about to hear the lived experience of people who are actually doing this on a day-to-day basis. And it's my absolute pleasure to introduce you to Girish Fernandez, who I recently met. How are you, Girish? It's great to see
Good.
you.
Thanks, Kit. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no worries. And Donna Paxton, who I know many of you also know, but I know they're going to get quite embarrassed, but I'm just going to skite about how ace they are and what they've done. So Girish, you may know, is actually one of the directors of a company called VGL Allied Connectors. This is a family-owned and operated business, and there are quite a few of us in our engine, but it's been around since 1989. Got to say that now, don't we? And involved in interconnect and engineering solutions for a whole range of industrial contexts, including defence. Girish is a qualified electrical engineer. He's done textile manufacturing and has 25 years of experience across the whole business environment: sales, development, operations, leadership, management. Quality, I imagine, might have been there too, Girish, wouldn't it? Quality
That's right, yeah.
It's kind of just how you breathe, isn't it?
Correct.
So Girish is clearly a problem solver. He's involved in providing those engineering solutions to those problems across diverse industries, and without wanting to embarrass him, has been a driving force in the establishment of his business's manufacturing capabilities and building it. Girish has also shared that, don't hold this against him, he's a hockey player. So the great Dandenong community benefits from that. Volunteering and providing his leadership on the committees, which is a vital piece of work to keep our sporting clubs thriving. And he's a very proud father of 3. And that's where actually he longs to be a lot. Girish, welcome.
Thanks, Kit. Thank you very much.
That's no worries. And now I'm going to go into the great Donna Paxton. Now, I knew about Donna before I met her because of the great work that Jaco's done in some of the things that we wanted to talk about. So there's probably nothing about human resources that Donna doesn't know about, because she's done it for 2 decades in manufacturing.
You're showing my age.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. But hands-on, I think, Donna, is how you like to describe yourself.
Yeah.
Complex negotiations, senior staff management, working with unions, working with your employers to get agreement. You've worked with the Montague group of companies, Iveco Trucks Australia. You've developed talent, you've developed service delivery for HR, and you've just got this comprehensive understanding across all aspects of organisational development. Of course, Donna's highly skilled, diploma of management, and actually has done some recent work with Bond University. Get board ready. Don't tell too many people that, Donna. You'll be snaffled onto all these boards in a region. Welcome. Thank you so much, everyone. So we're going to do this a little bit like a Q&A. And Girish, I'm going to start to you if I can.
Sure.
I'm going to ask you about your experience of workforce diversity and that idea about how you've done it. So how has increasing the diversity in your workforce, and it can be now or in other organisations, impacted the team dynamics? We know teams in manufacturing are very important, and the productivity. Have you got any examples you could possibly share with us?
Yeah, I think having a diverse workforce has benefited us vastly. I mean, across my desk, I come across a lot of individuals that are looking for employment and such, but probably don't have any Australian experience, things like that. So getting their foot into the door, and for potential employers to actually see what value they can actually add to an organization is a bit they can't get that across to them, you know. So in my case, I've just an example. I've had over 5-6 years ago, I had a lady from Mauritius that's come through, very shy sort of thing. So she got her involved in the office admin duties and things like that, and just in our organization, because we've had very multicultural people from different backgrounds, from Vietnam, from India, and from Sri Lanka, I think she seemed to be more comfortable in assimilating with them and facing the same challenges as them as a migrant coming into the country,
Right.
and to sort of So I think, and with just in that tea room chatter, the amount of value that they get out of each and interacting with each other from the office part, going into the manufacturing and back and forth, she found, like, in the last 4 or 5 years, she has sort of taken a role from just gone into, from, for example, just doing office admin stuff, to actually being opened up so much as to go and serving customers and counter sales and developing engineering solutions for them by understanding the products, understanding the products that we sell. So that's been a great benefit for her. And I think with her as well, that she found that because she didn't have she came in as a visa requirements, a lot of employers were sort of weren't giving her the time of the day, in the sense that, oh, you're on a visa, it's not permanent, or it's, you know, so that straight away sort of put a big X against her sort of name and things like that. So I found that by just and she's currently still with us, and she's been an absolutely fantastic asset to the thing. So I think for us as an organization, looking outside the box and sort of looking at, you know, not the normal resumes that you get across your desk, and and we tend to look at those resumes and we all automatically categorize potential employers in a certain category or something by just looking at them. But if you take that resume part out of it, I think you just got to look at them. I'm not saying it's not important; it is important. But I think just having a look at sort of in a broader scale and just opening the vision a little bit wider, I think it's helped us benefit that. And that's just one example of one of the.
Girish, I can hear you. Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I can hear you talk a few things. The first thing I'm hearing you talk about is the understanding that you as a leader have for your staff.
Yeah.
And you recognize how much connection with peers and a positive peer environment.
Yeah.
And also I'm hearing you understand her journey, the empathy you have with her journey as well. And we when we talked and presented and said that we were going to run this seminar, we talked about one technique, which is blind recruitment. And folks, there'll be a handout on blind recruitment come up, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But I like that idea that you talked about, that concept that blind recruitment or recruiting blindly, I think you said it was actually you recognizing how we bring bias sometimes, and that can be implicit, explicit. It's just the way that we are, but actually deliberately saying, you know, what am I looking for here? And do you find yourself doing that a little bit, Yurish?
In terms of using blind recruitment.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I'll put my hand up and say that I think 100% of my employees
Okay.
have been on blind recruitment. I
Ah,
mean,
okay.
they do provide me with their resumes and all that, but I quickly have a glance at it and I say, well, that's great, fantastic. What more? And just having a conversation with them and listening to their journey
Ah, yeah,
and how
right.
much value that they could add thing. And because we're a small SME, we can manage that better. But maybe in a large organization, and Donna probably has a bit more experience in that. Probably the recruiting or the actual managers that are subrogated to those categories, those little
Yeah,
divisions, they probably need to be a bit more of what they're looking for, rather, and how that will benefit the whole organization as a whole, maybe
yeah.
in the manufacturing sector or whatever it is. So for me, as a business a director, so I think I look at it's been mainly blind recruiting for me. That's thing. And just touching on without taking too much of the limelight here, but
No, 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 no.
um,
Please do. Please do.
I wanted to just touch on the women in the workforce has been such a great advantage for my organization that I think I've got 80% of women in my workforce, and they bring us whole new aspects of sort of thing into manufacturing. And they say it's like they put the persona. Like we showed that graph before, but women cannot do certain category tasks
Mm,
and things like that. But my ladies have proved to me that they can do something from lifting,
mm.
thing to do very minute aspects of soldering, crimping, whatever it is that they require
Yeah,
to
yeah,
do,
yeah, right.
so that they've covered a whole vast. So there's no limitation as to what they can actually do. And tapping onto for our organization, tapping onto work moms who are trying to get back into the workforce, we find that they are sort of in a sense that being a mom at home, just losing their identity. I mentioned this before when we had that
Yeah, we did when we
conversation.
caught up beforehand. Yeah.
I've had talked to many friends who are trying to get back into the world. So that sense of loss of identity is what they sort of lost. And I think getting them back into the workforce, they find themselves, it's sort of, they've got that good work family life balance and things like that. So I think they feel
Yeah.
a bit of achievement as well for themselves. And then, as the kids get into different ages of their schooling life, there's more opportunities for more women to actually get it back into the workforce is what I think anyway. So
Yeah. Thank you. And I appreciate you talking that too, because I'm going to go to Donna now. And I think, Donna, I know that JCO keeps being pulled into forums to talk about the work you've done to advance flexible working in your manufacturing organizations. But I'm just wondering if I can get you to go up in the helicopter a little bit. So flexible working is one of them. But there's two things I wanted to connect. We've heard Girish talk about what's working, and clearly he's a great leader and he spends time in getting to know his staff and, brings that idea of blind recruiting and a whole range of other strategies as well. But in your experience, what have you seen with JCO or other organizations have been the most effective in diversifying the workforce?
Yeah.
And this is the other part of it. Sorry, what
Yep.
challenges you faced?
Yep.
Because I know that you can speak to that. Thanks, Matty. Thanks.
Yeah. I suppose the challenge, I'll start with the challenge. I've been at a JCO for 11 and a half years. And
Yeah.
when I first started, I'd probably say we had 95% males here
Hmm.
and 100% of full-time employees. So we didn't have
Okay.
any flexibility whatsoever.
Okay.
Me suggesting bringing casuals or part-timers in was a big no-no.
Yep. Right.
It couldn't be done. So I suppose the biggest challenge I had was changing a leadership team and their thought process. And, a leadership team that had been around for as long as the business in some instances, and trying to get them to understand the benefit of creating a more inclusive workplace. So for us, I suppose the only positive that came out of COVID for us was that it created a lot of challenges for us to recruit, because we went through a massive boom. Everyone was buying a caravan because nobody could go overseas. So,
Yeah.
we were looking at, we had hundreds and hundreds of vacancies and we couldn't put people in fast enough. And it was probably a shining light for me to use it as an opportunity to start talking more about bringing in, excuse me, we save money on electricity. If I don't move, it blackens out. So we put forward a proposal about job sharing opportunities, and we wanted to bring more women into our workforce because we find that they excel from a quality point of view. They're a little bit more meticulous with their attention to detail, and they're a lot more focused on, mother hennering in a leadership capacity. So we wanted to bring more women in to sort of soften our culture as well, because we did have quite a dominant, boisterous culture here. So we created part-time jobs and job sharing opportunities, and I sold it to the leadership team that it's better to have 2 part-timers working 4 hours a day than one person working 8 hours a day, because if that one person calls in sick, you lose 8 hours. If you have one of your 2 people call in sick for 4 hours, you lose 4 hours. So you still have 4 hours to gain. So we went through an exercise. We identified what jobs could we job share. There's some that you just can't. Like if you're doing electrical testing or plumbing, you need someone there that can do that, and that's a position that has to be full-time throughout the whole day to make sure the van gets done. But a lot of our pre-assembly departments, our lamination area, our cabinet shops, our saw section, they all provided the opportunity to bring women, but also students. So we had a lot of students that were studying, and they just wanted to do a couple of hours in the day so that they could still do their studies at night and things like that. We also had people that were not quite ready to retire that wanted to transition shorter hours. So being a company that's hitting 50 years next year, we wanted to make sure we weren't forgetting the people that had been here for 30, 40 years and provide them an opportunity to start to wind down. So they went into a transition to retirement program, and we gave them the option to start reducing their hours. So instead of doing 5 full days a week, they dropped down to 5 days, 4 hours, or they did 3 days, full hours. So we gave them a little bit more flexibility from that point of view. And then the other challenge that we had was being manufacturing, you can't offer work from home. And that was a big thing with COVID. Everyone said how amazing it was, and it's proving challenging for people to get people back now. But we couldn't offer that. We didn't have that ability. We've only got about 100 people in the office, and the other 1,100 were out on the factory floor. So we had to be here for them. So we couldn't offer work from home opportunities. You can't take caravan parts home and build it in your backyard. So for us, we changed our hours, and we increased our daily hours, and we actually then implemented a fortnightly rostered day off. So that provided opportunity again for the parents and even the grandparents. The grandparents love having that extra day every other week because they get to go pick their grandkids up or look after their kids, so their grandkids, so that their child can go and work and do more hours. And as you said, get that identity back and get back into the workforce. So for us, it wasn't just about women. It was about existing employees, retirees, students, and also our staff working in manufacturing, and parents and grandparents. So we had to sort of be quite broad, I suppose, from a diversity point of view and an inclusiveness, just to be able to fill all those roles and get all those people on board.
Yeah. What's resonating with me is exactly where you ended, which was it was flexibility for everyone. So, and often when we talk about diversity, we think of people in boxes as well. But actually, when we do this properly, it's like you can be a young woman studying, you can be an older man wanting to retire. Yeah. Those are all different things. So I love that too. And
I will just add in one quick thing, Kit.
Please.
We actually, because we're again trying to focus on women and be diverse, we created a Women in Leadership program, and I had every woman that we thought had potential to be in a leadership role, or had a really good, strong background in whatever area they were working on that we wanted to help lift. But when we did that, it was actually really good for the women that were involved. However, we then got complaints from the men saying, well, hang on, what about us? Like, we want to develop the women, what about the men? And we
Yeah.
went, yeah, fair enough. So now we call it a leadership program rather than a women in leadership program. So
Yeah.
that was a bit of a learning curve for us as well.
Yeah. And I think what you're suggesting there about the singling out is certainly something that we hear about again and again. Yes, there is absolutely benefit in providing support for those that are in the minority or for a whole range of reasons to build confidence and capability. But actually counter to that, if you're trying to you can actually create counter tensions in that as well. So doing it well,
yeah.
I think, and taking a strategic view of it, whilst recognizing that we need to address the barriers is absolutely the way to go. I'm also very interested in that story about bringing leadership on board, because I think that's a crucial part of the journey, and it might be, Honey, we can go to this at a later event. But Girish, I might just go back to you just on the leadership and business structures, if I may. Sometimes you've already talked about this notion of blind recruitment, and crudely, when blind recruitment was sort of first introduced, it effectively, what happened was that the application would be submitted and the identifiers would be taken off. So the name would come off, or the location, or there's been evidences in the United States and of course here in Australia that actually one of the immediate impacts of that was the people that got through to the shortlisting and were interviewed. There were more people from a migrant background because people didn't make judgment on the type of the name, which is very interesting, or where they were born. So those things. So that's crudely one of the things that can happen. Often there's a view, Girish, that, oh, you can do that if you're a big organisation and you've got resources. Look at Jacob. They've got a HR department, they can do that, right? Girish, from your experience, and you've worked at a lot of different organisations and you've worked, we all know what the pressures on small to medium enterprises are. Do you think the use of these tools can work in any size organisation? Can they be adapted?
I think it's and from speaking from my perspective, I think it's about educating the recruiting managers and things like that, understanding
That's right.
what
Yeah.
the organization. I mean, as you said, blind recruitment without having just looking at the resume, they sort of put them in a certain category, trying to get that mentality out of it and saying that, well, this person is either is from a migrant background or is over 55, but any of those sort of categories that you're trying to put them into, eliminating that I think that's from me as a man. If I was to just take a role as a manager in a recruitment, I would say, well, I would try to educate myself in the sense that try to have a bit more diverse background in there, but try to educate myself as to what what value or what this individual can actually add to the organization, whether they be a male, female, overage, underage, whatever you want to call it, any category, LGBTIQ, even scenarios. Because I found that even working through my social club, I get a lot of low demographic individuals coming through, and just everybody's got a story to tell. And I think you just have to be a bit more open to that scenario and a bit more empathetic and a bit more understanding, and just having that openness and that vision to look sort of a little bit sideways as well, rather than just sort of thing. So I think for me as a perspective, it just comes through just talking and meeting with people and just sort of developing and just having that openness towards giving them the opportunity. And just like every person that comes into this country is always looking for an opportunity. And I think it's up to organizations who've got the facilities to give these individuals the opportunity. And many times I've heard that people come to this country, oh, we don't have Australian experience. Can you give us an opportunity to try? And generally, these are the individuals that sort of are so skillful and so and they so add so much value to the organization. So I think it's up to the recruiting managers and things like that in those positions to sort of be a bit more open to that, and even still falling into lines with the company policies and procedures and everything, but just having that openness. I think that's my opinion anyway. So
you've absolutely nailed it, and I just want to recognize, as Malcolm has put an excellent question in the chat, and Malcolm, with your permission, I might pose that to the panelists as well, or you might want to later. So thank you so much for sharing that. But the case studies and the evaluations and the research I've read on blind recruiting absolutely says what you've just said, which is you can't do this approach unless you support the people who are doing it and apply it to your own context, right? So it's not this off the shelf sort of an approach. And I think that's the other lesson I'm taking from you, Donna. You looked at this working from home juggernaut, which, let's be really honest, 25% of the working population in Australia can do. If we think about nurses, aged care workers, people on process lines, people out in the fields on ag lands, you know, working from home is one way of flexible work, but you've thought about it, work with your community, work with your peers to make flexible working work for you. And same with you, Girish, you're applying it in place. I guess, Donna, if I could come back to you, what other strategies or initiatives have you or seen work really well that have been adapted for manufacturing? So you know how people can have a great idea because it's all very good in theory, but then you got to apply it. What other things have you seen work really well for inclusive workplaces, but they've been adapted or they've had to be evolved or changed to make it work?
Look, I suppose here at Jayco, we're a very diverse business with this many people on 50 acres. You walk out into the backyard, it's there's a lot of diversity as soon as you walk into this factory, and there's 7 of them. You know, I suppose we don't really have to promote much about diversity here because it is in existence so much. Like, and it's probably more suited to Girish. Large organizations, you know, we have a very big population here, so it's probably not as concerning for me, I suppose. I think the only thing we've had to look at is, like was mentioned before, the I can't remember all the words.
LGBTIQ+.
That's the one.
Yep, it's all right. I'll do that. That's fine.
We historically have had areas within our business that are only males. So our lamination department, for some strange reason, had only ever recruited males in that area. And it wasn't sort of at the forefront of our mind that that was even an issue. And then all of a sudden, when we were going through this recruitment boom, we were presenting everybody to them. And, you know, there were some really good female applicants. And then all of a sudden it was like, what toilet are they going to use? And we're like, what do you mean? Like, we've got toilets. And they're like, yeah, but they're all men's toilets. So, and we didn't realize that in all of our little pods where we've got our lunchrooms, every toilet there was labeled for men only. And, you know, so we had to sort of quickly make some of those changes. We've had some people come to us and sort of said, oh, you know, I don't identify as a male or a female. So we've had to create and change some of our disabled toilets and make them generic ones so that allows anybody to use it. But then you get other issues where some females will go in and say, I'm not comfortable if a man comes in here. So we still have to have males, we still have to have females, and then we have to have sort of generic ones as well. So even things like that from our point of view, you know, we've got I was talking to a gentleman today who's actually one of our supervisors on our line, and I was having a laugh with him about when he first started working for us, and he came in to interview, or he came in to apply, and I walked past the reception desk, and he sort of startled me. He was covered in tattoos, like head to toe. And when he closes his eyes, it says game over. So he's a unique individual, but he was...
I'm just thinking of the pain. That's all I'm doing.
Correct. He was the most lovely person in the world to talk to. And he said, I've made some really bad decisions in my life, and pointed to his face. But he said, I really need someone to give me an opportunity, and I promise you I'll work hard. And I deliberately took his resume and I gave it to my recruitment consultant, but I didn't tell her what he looked like. I said, oh, have a look at this guy. He's got a really good background. So she called him in for an interview the next day, and she came into my office a little bit pale and said, I'm not sure what to do. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, this guy's here and he's amazing, but oh my God, the boss is going to freak out. Like, he's covered in tattoos, Donna. And I said,
Yeah.
I know, but he's absolutely lovely. And she goes, I know, I really like him. And I said, all right, we'll send him out for a tool test. And we sent him out on the floor. And this particular individual got the job, became a team leader in 6 months. Now he's a supervisor and running our motorhome division, which is, you know, our biggest and most
Huge.
important
That's huge. Yeah.
one. And he just told me today, so a couple of weeks ago, he told me he's expecting his first child, and he told me today he proposed to his partner on the weekend. And I'm like, oh, you've all grown up, like, how exciting. So, but again, I think the moral of that is that we've just got to give people an opportunity, and whilst it's
100%.
not a blind recruitment, it's sort of
It sort of
I kind of,
quasi was
yeah, I kind of
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
tell her the truth, but
Yeah.
again, this person was the right person for our business, and he's a driver, he's a doer. He acknowledges he looks different, and he's made some bad choices, but he just needed that opportunity, and that chance, I
And he's
suppose,
grown with you.
to
Yeah.
be included.
Loyal.
So,
Yeah. What I really love about that story is you know the knowledge of the business and what it needs, that but also this thing that's not often spoken
yep.
in the management textbooks, is it?
No.
About giving people a chance.
Yeah.
And that's that kind of seeing the whole person, isn't it?
Mm.
Absolutely. I think the other thing that's resonating as well is just this, again, this idea of, you say modestly, diversity is like breathing now. I think I might be paraphrasing it, but you did say before in a previous question, 11 years ago, right? So there has been a journey for Jayco there,
Yes.
right? There has been 11 years of
Yep.
slog and patience, I would argue,
Yep.
with yourselves and with others to get through that, adapting and testing and learning as we go.
Yep.
Girish and Donna, thank you so much. I'm conscious of time, and I might open it up to the floor and any comments. But before I do that, I just wanted to hand over to Honey Walker from SEMMA. So, Honey, as you hear these two leaders and stalwarts of the industry in our region and in your membership, what sort of things are resonating to you when we think about the topic today, which is diversity and productivity as well? What's sort of standing out to you?
I think, well, what's standing out to me is that they go hand in hand.
Yep.
And, it just seems that we're a little slow to the party. And, I really can't understand why when there are so many benefits.
Yep.
But, it really comes back to leadership, as both Girish and Donna have said, and that while progress seems to be slow, and 11 years to do something is not quick
Yeah,
by
customer
anyone.
wouldn't wait that long, would they?
No.
It happened before 11 years, honey. Come on. It happened in about 8 years.
Right. So, it's about I guess, taking the leap and using these wonderful case studies. And I think for us, in the next step of this program kit, is to really go for the leadership group. The captains of industry, and really bring it home to them. That's what's needed, because there's obviously a need for it, obviously, and why don't we be leaders?
Yep.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, thanks, Honey. Yeah, much to unpack, and this is the first one that we've got. I wanted to just offer people the opportunity to put their hands up, take themselves off mute, or stick something in the chat to ask a question. And we've got here from one from Malcolm, and forgive me, Malcolm, if I asked this question because I thought it was great. So Malcolm in the chat was having a chat about competency. And I think Malcolm you probably could speak for yourself, Malcolm, if you wanted to ask the question, well, could the candidates going for the jobs be given empowerment to control their skill progress within an organisation? Is that a functional tool manufacturers have thought of? And I guess, Malcolm, you're probably thinking about retention. And I can see the Chisholm logos online as well. So we've got some educators in here as well. But I guess, Donna and Girish, that kind of idea of because manufacturers are always learning, aren't you? There's always something new. That idea that people can be given control to progress their own skills development on site in learning. Oh, Malcolm, please, yeah. I'd love it. I love it.
Okay,
thank you.
Okay. So where the basis of that question came from was, how do young people learn today?
Excellent, Malcolm.
And so one of the things that people haven't, and I've been around a long time, so it's quite unusual for me to be saying this, but one of the ways that young people learn today is through video games or YouTube, okay? Traditional schooling is not where they learn a lot of skills. And so if you look at the video game process, they advance through different levels of skill by repetition and repeating and failing and trying again. But in all those elements, they are in control of their progress. When we look at traditional employment, there's always an authoritarian figure that they have to seek permission to say, am I doing what I'm required? Is that acceptable? And there's always some authoritarian person that has to come and verify that for them.
Mm-hmm.
But with the technology that's around today for manufacturers, that actually can be removed and have the candidate identify whether they're progressing or they're regressing in their skill. Now, one of the benefits for the manufacturer is supervisory time is not absorbed in managing a new candidate. And so the candidate can get feedback directly to their activity so that they can say, yes, I am doing a good job. And why am I doing a good job? Because the data is telling me I'm doing a good job. Now, that takes a bit of a leap of faith by the manufacturer to say, okay, can my tasks in my manufacturing be quantifiable so that I know when something good has been done and I know when something's bad is being done? Because at the moment, it's all relying on an experienced person validating the output. And so young people, I hear all the time they're impatient, they want instant gratification. My theory is that's not what they want. What they want is control over their progress.
Yep.
That's what they want.
Yeah, Malcolm. So
can I
insightful. Yeah, I can feel Donna and Girish wanting to go. Go, Donna. Go, Donna.
Well, in my team, I look after the training department. So we have a training manager, and then we have online trainers. So we actually have people that will go out, and if we have a new starter, for example, they go through and set them up and, make sure they're signed off on this, that, and the other. One of the things we did identify a couple of years ago was that, like you say, Malcolm, how do you know what this person wants to achieve? How do you know who the next quality controller is going to be? How do you know who the next production manager is going to be? And we set up a program whereby they have the opportunity to actually put in a proposal about where they want to be within the business and when they want to get there. So they list down what their interests are, they list down what their background is, and they talk about the opportunities and the jobs that they'd be interested in applying for in the future. So we allow them to fill in like an application form, and it actually stipulates what sort of training courses they want to do to advance into the role they want to get to. And we record all of that into a database so that when we have training programs come up, we can refer back to that to see who's put their hand up an expression of interest for that particular program. So that's the first one we did. The other thing that, the other thing, we're light focused here. The other thing that we tend to do too is we have a buddy system. And when we have new people come into the business, we actually buddy them up with a more senior operator so that they can get that direct feedback. Because I hear what you say, Malcolm, it's not about necessarily climbing the ladder straight away, but they do like that gratification. And some people don't like gratification. Some people prefer to just do their job and carry on. But for a lot of younger people, they do like to hear, gee, thanks for that. You did really well. And, I have that in my own team. I've got some really young people, and I make sure I always go, wow, thanks so much for helping me today. How did you find that? Was it really good for you? Did you learn something? And just having that interaction with them, because I think they like more one-on-one interaction. So giving them a buddy that links in with them and trains them, guides them, and supports them is the second piece. And then the third piece we're actually implementing at the moment is we're implementing a HR information system, and we're going to have an online training function so that we're going to list a lot of our learnings and courses, etc., online on this portal, and they'll be able to access it through their own login, and it will have all these different things. It'll show them what they've achieved as well. It'll show them how much they've learnt, and then that all links back to our PACE structure as well. So it'll actually show, you know, X amount of jobs, but in order for you to advance to a level 4, you need to do X, Y, Z still. So it gives them that opportunity to sort of have a look and then have that conversation with their leader and say, okay, I know all this, but I want to learn this and move into the next level. And it gives them that opportunity.
Amazing.
Is that accessible by their phone?
It will be when,
Okay.
We haven't implemented the HRIS yet. We're in the process. So it's probably going to be implemented early next year. It's a very long-winded program because there's a lot of behind the scenes data. It's going to be everything for them. It's going to be their pay slip. It's going to be their request for leave portal. It's going to be their company memos, calendars. All of our information is going to go into this one system for them to access. And obviously, being manufacturing, I'm very well aware not everybody has the technology, and we're going to put some kiosks out in the factory for them to log into and access in their lunch breaks after hours. Yep.
Thanks, Donna. I like what I like there is that idea of Malcolm's, you know, the idea of just in time and self-paced, and, you know, the data there is absolutely going to be free to share. Girish, do you have any views on those key points before I start to
I'll just make it
pull this all
short.
together? No, please.
Ours
Excuse
is
me, I'm
not
just going to take
obviously
a sip of
as elaborate as Donna's set up. We obviously have KPIs where we review it in management meetings and things like that, just to making sure that the staff is up to scrap with the matrices, like, so for example, soldering, crimping, different processes. I'll take soldering as a process that we use a lot in terms of coming back to the training part, where we have there's a course that we sort of I'm a trainer. It's called a trainer course. So I train my staff into the fundamentals of what's required, and then they would go on site and they would do a job under a supervisor sort of thing who would guide them in terms of like making sure the thing. But they already have because they've done a pre sort of training, they already understand the processes and what they're looking for in terms of, especially the soldering processes where there's enough flow on the solder, etc. Certain criteria is met, and as they get, it's an experience thing. So as they do more of it, they get more experience, and they get better at it. So, but at the fundamentals, they have a category, they have a base where they understand what is required, and then the supervisors sort of just guiding them through, ensuring that, making sure they're doing the processes correctly. Try this, try that, different things, and it's an individual thing as well. So that's me speaking on a small to medium enterprise, not as elaborate as Dana's sort of facilities there,
but still that distributed idea of the
exactly.
I think one of the things that also I'm resonating is there's a lot of conversation at the moment about,
and the confidence comes with them as they get better at the job, at the processes. They will feel more confident coming out. If you take them out of uni and put them in, they will not learn these techniques in the university, because I've studied at university myself. You're not going to learn how to solder. Half the electricians that come in my site to buy stuff, they don't know how to do it. They can probably give you a gripper and a screwdriver, but all these processes are learned on site at the job as well, depending on the category that you need to, of the work that the organization is doing. So it's about having the right training and processes in place at the organizational level, and then as the organization grows, your processes grow, your procedures grow, and then you can apply sort of fundamentals what Donna's done in her organization to that level.
But it's still that idea of the just-in-time learning at the pace that you want to
100%.
for where people are at. Yeah, great.
That's correct, 100%.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, we're coming to the end of this first event, and I'm just so enjoying the conversation. And I don't know about you, Honey, but I'm learning enormous amounts. What we wanted to do is use this moment, if we can, to just sort of say, well, where to next? Where are we going to head to next? Now, hopefully, you'll see in front of you a QR code. We are keen to find out from you how valuable this first event has been and what else do you want to know. If you got your ubiquitous phone, you can pick it up and take the call, and it'll take you to that platform called slido.com. You can also go through your website and hit that number to search for it. There is 3 questions we want to ask you. The first one is just to get a sense from you about if the seminar has been helpful to you as well. So I'll just patter while I talk. I can see people are logging on now, and I can see those results coming in. And these 2 questions, we're just going to hide the response so people have a sense that they can communicate freely through that as well. We've got another one that's sort of similar but a different take. But I think, Honey, what we're looking for too is to see what other topics people would like us to talk about in a little bit as well. So put your thinking caps on about that. You've talked about leadership, but I'm just noticing in the chat, there's a great comment from one of the colleagues on the line, thanking Donna for sharing that story about the toilets, because it can be quite practical. And her end line, and I don't mean to draw attention to it, but I thought that her end line was relevant to a number of other people who might be feeling something similar, which is the idea of, is it worth it? Folks, you should see the second question come up now as well. That idea of is it worth it, I think, is where we kind of came from today, but we know it's a bit of a learning journey, don't we, Honey? So we're keen to hear people's views. So we've just got that second question up there now, folks. Improve the knowledge and understanding about diversity manifest. Please feel free to be honest about where you're at. We'll be sending a couple of resources. The SEMMA team will be after this. It'll come out to you by the email and also be on that website as well. And I can see we've got some responses to that as well. So I'll just go to this next one. As we wrap up, what other topics would you like us to explore as part of this project? And while you're answering that, let's think about where we're going to go to next. Resource sharing and providing tip sheets and updates will be part of this project through SEMMA. So there'll be a few, but we'll add to them as they go. So as we learn from the membership about what SEMMA's finding from the region, we'll create those, hopefully just to be a guide to moving forward. We want to run a couple of more forums, so let us know what you think. I think, Honey, I might ask you to speak a little bit here, but I know that SEMMA has announced a plan to create a blueprint for manufacturing in Southern Melbourne. I've heard your president talk about it, and a key part of that is the skills agenda as part of that. Do you want to just let the people on the phone know a little bit more about that?
Sure. Thanks, Kit, and thanks everyone. And I'm mindful of the time. Yep, you may have heard that SEMMA is putting together a manufacturing blueprint, and one of those topics is skills, the skills gap, how to fill that gap, and we'll be offering up a range of policy ideas to our policy makers around that. So, you know, we've got a survey out at the moment, which only takes about 5 minutes to do, but it is quite comprehensive, even though it's short. So if you have some information, if you'd like to fill out that survey, if you haven't already, please do. We think it'll be incredibly important for manufacturing going forward. We know there are jobs to fill, and we can be leaders in this diversity space. So that's what we want to do.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, it is 1 minute past 1. I want to say and extend my deep thanks to Donna Tagirish for taking the time to share with us all their experience. I think we ask a lot of people in our region and our sectors and our employers as well to share what they're doing. And I know you do a bit of it, so thank you yet again for doing that. And I guess you know, by you sharing your journey, you give others permission to act and to learn and to explore. So thank you so much, Donna and Girish. Really appreciated. Honi, as always, thank you so much for your leadership and for SEMMA's partnership. I also want to do a shout out to Shannon, who's on the line from SEMMA, and my colleague, Chrissy Nicholson from WISE, who's also part of this project team. And I can see the great folk of Chisholm there as well. Thanks, everyone. Wonderful to see you today. Please feel free to reach out to SEMMA if you've got any questions, if you want to follow up, but here to help. And we look forward to speaking to you soon. Have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kit.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.